Welcome to Growing Tall Poppies, Thrive After Trauma. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and I am so excited to have you join me as we discuss what it means to navigate your way through trauma or significant challenges and not just survive, but to thrive after it. This is a space for people who've been through trauma or adversity, have done some healing, and know they're meant for more than just coping. This podcast is about post-traumatic growth, not getting back to who you used to be. Rather, understanding who you are now and learning how to stand tall without shrinking, forcing, or abandoning yourself. Here, we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it really takes to move forward in a way that feels aligned, embodied, and true. You will hear a blend of deep solo conversations and powerful guest interviews with people who have lived this work, not just studied it. Because growth doesn't come from pushing harder, it comes from understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently updating the old agreements that no longer fit the life you're ready to live. If you're ready to stop hiding, stop performing, and start owning who you are becoming, then you are in the right place. Let's grow tall together. Hello, and welcome back to Growing Tall Poppies. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and this episode is going to be a bit different. I'm not, to be honest, entirely sure how I'm going to get through it, so please bear with me. A few weeks ago in episode 111, I spoke about two beautiful friends of mine, friends who were facing two very different battles. And one of those friends was Narelle, my beautiful friend of more than 20 years. And she had been living with cancer for a very long time, over 10 years. Well, when I recorded that episode, we both knew that things were changing, and we knew that her time was becoming limited. And yet, knowing something is coming doesn't necessarily prepare you for when it arrives. And as I sit here recording this episode today, my beautiful friend has passed away. I've wondered whether I should record this episode at all, because grief is deeply personal and Narelle's story isn't only mine to tell. But I realised that I don't want to tell you the story of how Narelle died. I want to tell you a little bit about how she lived. I want to tell you about the woman, the amazing woman behind the cancer. Now, Narelle was a constant listener and supporter of the Growing Tall Poppies podcast. She, at times, found it challenging to listen to some of the episodes because of what was going on in her life, but she would always make the time to do it when she was ready. And she would tell me the impact it had on her. And I asked, could we record that episode 111? And she said, yes, of course. And she also said that I was more than welcome to record one about her when her time came and she had passed. So that's what I'm doing today. I do have a bit of a script here because I'm a bit worried that I might go off track or not be able to keep going. So apologies if it doesn't sound as natural flowing as it usually could. Anyway, let's talk about my beautiful friend Narelle. She was so much more than the woman behind the cancer. She was a friend, a mum, a nurse, and the woman with the huge smile and the infectious laugh. The woman who has been woven into our family's life for more than 20 years. Because when I think about Narelle, I definitely don't immediately think about cancer. I think about the beach. I think about coffee. We always loved a good coffee. Think about sitting together at the lighthouse. And most of all, I think about our boys, our kids, who have been the best of friends for a very long time. I think about holidays and laughter, music, friendship, and all of those seemingly ordinary moments that when you look back turn out to have been anything but ordinary. And I think about how incredibly lucky and blessed we were to have her. I can still remember the first time we met. We were at the beach and her two boys called out and my son raced over to start playing with them near the rocks by the water's edge. And my daughter tagged along behind. There was this instant friendship and acceptance between them. And somehow, through our boys finding each other, we found each other too. And neither of us, none of us, could possibly have known that that day where that friendship would take us. That there would be more than 20 years of life ahead of us. Our children growing up alongside one another. Our families' lives becoming intertwined. Countless coffees by the beach. Hours sitting at the lighthouse, which was always her special place. Looking out over the ocean, talking about our kids, our families, what was happening in our lives. Sometimes serious stuff, sometimes absolute rubbish, and everything in between. There were holidays, so many laughs, our kids playing in a band together, which led to a trip to the Gold Coast where we had lots of fun shopping, hanging around at theme parks. We went on an amazing cruise together, cruising the South Pacific, watching our children grow while we were growing and changing alongside them. And somewhere amongst all of that, our friendship deepened. Not because of one huge defining moment, but through hundreds and hundreds, thousands probably, of ordinary ones. And perhaps That's one of the things I've been thinking about most over these past few days. We often just don't recognise the significant moments of our lives while we're living them. Nobody stood on that beach all those years ago and announced, "Pay attention. This is the beginning of a friendship that will become part of the fabric of your life." It was just another day at the beach. 3 boys playing near the rocks. A little sister tagging along behind. 2 mums chatting. And yet here I am, more than 20 years later, understanding just how significant that ordinary day became. If you knew Narelle, you knew her smile, you knew her laugh, you knew her vibrancy. She lived life like no one else I know. And you knew how deeply she cared about people. Narelle was a nurse. But caring wasn't simply something that she did professionally. It was part of who she was. I can't count the number of times that nursing hat went on with our kids. It didn't matter that she wasn't technically on duty. If one of them was sick or hurt or miserable, Nurse Narelle appeared. And I remember my daughter being in hospital in kids' ward, and Nurse Narelle came to the rescue. She wasn't even on shift. She showed up. She nurtured and cared for them and looked after them. She always cheered them up and made them feel safe. Our kids knew that. They grew up knowing that Narelle was one of those adults in their world who cared about them, who was in their corner, and who would show up whenever they needed her. And I realise now what an extraordinary gift that is. Because when you've been friends for more than 20 years, you don't just become part of each other's lives. You become part of each other's children's childhoods. So there's pieces of Narelle that are woven into our family's memories that not just me, but our kids will carry for the rest of their lives. We have laughed so much over these 20 plus years. On holidays, the many trips that we've been on together. Just last year, it was the Formula One race in Melbourne. Narelle really wasn't very well, but she pushed through because having memories with her kids, with our kids, was important. Friendship is just so important. That shared language that develops over years, the stories where you only need to say a few words and the other person already knows what you're talking about. Through those 20 years of friendship, it wasn't just holidays and laughter and coffee by the beach. There was heartbreak. There were losses, frightening conversations. There was cancer. And then recurrent cancer. And then recurrent cancer. And the uncertainty that came with every diagnosis, every scan, every change. There were times when we were scared, when there simply weren't words that could make things better. So we did what friends do. Kept showing up. Sometimes she held me. Sometimes I held her. Sometimes we simply sat beside one another. Through all those years, Narelle's courage, her compassion, and her vibrancy continued to shine through. That's what really, really sticks in my mind. She kept living. She kept loving. And she kept laughing. She kept being Narelle. And I think that's so important. Because cancer was something that happened to Narelle. It was never all that Narelle was. And now, after fighting for so long, it's finally her time to rest. Her time to surrender. She fought so long and so hard. And for those of us who love her, it's our time to begin reflecting on everything she was, everything she gave, and just how very blessed we have been to have had the gift of her in our lives. And there's another part of this experience that I want to talk about because I don't think we talk about it enough. It's part of what I wanted to do to share in this episode today. As an extraordinary privilege in being allowed to walk beside someone during the final part of their life. It is heartbreaking, but there's something incredibly sacred about it too. When someone you love is approaching the end of their life, so much of what normally occupies us suddenly becomes irrelevant. There's nothing to achieve. There's nothing to solve. There's nothing to make better. Perhaps that's particularly confronting for those of us who've spent so much of our lives helping, fixing, organising, caring and finding solutions. You cannot fix this. And there's a surrender in that for us too. All you can really do is be there. Sit beside them, hold their hand, stroke their hair, talk when talking feels right, but be quiet when quiet is what is needed. And make sure in whatever way you can that they know that they are loved. There is something incredibly humbling about realising that sometimes presence really is enough. And I feel enormously privileged to have been able to be present during this part of Narelle's life. To have been allowed into that incredibly vulnerable space. But being grateful for that privilege doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. You can feel deeply honoured to walk beside someone and absolutely heartbroken that you have to. Both can be true. Because let's face it, grief doesn't begin the moment someone takes their final breath. There's grief in the days, the weeks, the months beforehand. When the reality sets in. There's grief in noticing something they could do yesterday that they can no longer do today. There is grief in watching someone you love become quieter and more tired. There's grief in seeing the person you know beginning little by little to let go and fighting every single step of the way, clinging because they're not ready. And there is grief in leaving their room and wondering whether that was the last time. I've lived that this week. I've walked out of Narelle's room and wondered, was that it? Was that the last time I'm going to see my beautiful friend? And then you walk back outside. The sun is still shining, people are driving their cars, someone's buying groceries, someone else is laughing. The world is carrying on with its perfectly ordinary day. And you're carrying something enormous inside you. There's such a strange dissonance in that. I think it's important that we allow ourselves to acknowledge the grief that comes before the loss too. To not expect ourselves to simply keep functioning because the person we love is technically still here. Our heart already knows that something is changing. Something else has happened for me as well these last few days. I've been reminded very personally that our nervous system doesn't experience what is happening today separately from everything we've experienced before. As I've said many, many times, our bodies carry our stories, our experiences, our previous losses, the hospital rooms we've sat in, the hands we've held, the people we've loved, and the goodbyes we've already had to say. And sometimes something happening in the present touches one of those old places without warning. And it's been happening for me this week in particular. As I've been sitting with Narelle, preparing myself for the reality of losing her, memories of another beautiful friend, Shell, have been coming back. Little moments, little feelings, little images, things I haven't deliberately gone searching for. They've simply arrived. And I think there's something important in understanding that. Love can touch love. Loss can touch loss. A goodbye happening today can find the place inside us where another goodbye still lives. That doesn't mean that we've failed to grieve properly. It doesn't mean we should somehow be over what happened before. It doesn't mean we've gone backwards. I know, perhaps it simply means that something happening now has found a familiar pathway inside us. Our nervous system recognises something. Our body remembers. And perhaps instead of pushing those feelings away or trying to make sense of why they're appearing now, we can simply just notice them. Of course this is touching something in me. Of course I'm feeling this. And perhaps we can offer ourselves some of the compassion that we're so readily offering everyone else. And yesterday, I'm going to share something that happened that brought so much of this together for me. A kookaburra came to visit. And for anyone who knows my story, kookaburras have a very particular connection for me with my own mum. And when I saw this kookaburra sitting on the pool fence, just hanging around, kept diving into the pool, coming back out, it was just sitting there, staring at me. I saw this kookaburra sitting there yesterday in the midst of everything that's been happening with Narelle. It stopped me. I can't tell you objectively what that kookaburra meant. I don't need to. But I can tell you what it meant to me. I thought about my mum, and I had this overwhelming sense of comfort. And this beautiful thought that perhaps Mum was letting me know that she was there. That maybe she could help my beautiful friend make this transition. That perhaps when it was finally time for Narelle to let go, there would be someone there to welcome her. Is that what the kookaburra meant? I don't know. Maybe it was simply what my heart needed in that moment. Maybe it was something more. And I'm actually quite comfortable not knowing. Because sometimes meaning doesn't have to be scientifically explained to be meaningful. Yesterday, that kookaburra brought me great comfort. While preparing to say goodbye to one beautiful woman, I suddenly felt close to another. And there was something incredibly tender about that. Grief does that sometimes. It collapses time. Suddenly, the person you're grieving today is sitting alongside the people you've grieved before. Love touches love. Loss touches loss. And somehow, they all become present. Now, let me go back to what I said in episode 111. I said something about Narelle that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. I said that she would give anything for more time. One more ordinary day. One more morning sunrise, and oh my goodness, she loved her sunrises. One more laugh. One more sunset. One more opportunity to simply be here. And those words feel very different now. Because how many ordinary days do we move through without really noticing them? We wait for the holiday, the achievement, the milestone, the times when things settle down, the time when we're less busy, the time when we've finally got more space. And meanwhile, our life is happening. It's happening while 3 little boys play near the rocks and their mums start talking. It's happening over coffee by the beach. It's happening sitting at a lighthouse talking about nothing particularly important. It's happening wandering around the Gold Coast, standing in queues at theme parks and laughing together on a cruise ship somewhere in the South Pacific. It's happening when your friend puts her nursing hat on because your kid isn't well. It's happening in conversations you just don't realise that you'll remember 20 years later. The ordinary days are the life. I don't say that to create another expectation that we should seize every moment or live every day as though it's our last. Because I actually think that puts an enormous amount of pressure on being human. We'll still have bad days, we'll still get cranky, we'll still complain about things that really don't matter in the bigger scheme of things. We'll still waste an afternoon, we'll still get distracted. We'll occasionally take people for granted. Because that's being human. But perhaps every now and then we can remember. This is it. This ordinary, messy, beautiful, imperfect life. And perhaps the people we lose leave us with an invitation. Not to live perfectly, but to be here for more of it. Make the phone call, have the coffee, take the damn photo, go on the holiday if you can. Sit at the lighthouse a little longer. Say I love you. Let people know what they mean to you while they're still here to hear it. Because one day, the things that seem completely ordinary may become the things you would give anything to experience just one more time. And Narelle, my beautiful friend, I don't know how you adequately thank someone for more than 20 years of friendship. How do you wrap 20 years into a few words? How do you thank someone for being woven into your family's life, for loving our children, for nursing them when they needed you, for the coffees, the holidays, the lighthouse, the laughter, for your courage, your compassion, for that enormous smile, for simply being you? I hope you knew what you meant to us. I hope you knew how deeply you were loved. I hope you knew that our lives were different because you were part of them. And I hope you knew that your children will never have to carry your stories alone. Because there are so many of us who remember. We remember the friend, the nurse, the mum, the laughter, the courage. And I'll remember sitting beside you at the lighthouse, coffee by the beach. I'll remember watching our boys find each other all those years ago, never imagining that their friendship was about to give me you. And I'm sure that there'll be many days where I'll sit at that lighthouse with a coffee, look out over the ocean, for just a moment expect you to be sitting there beside me. I suspect there'll be many moments like that. Because that's what happens when somebody has been woven into your life for so long. They don't simply disappear from it. The relationship changes, but the love doesn't. There are pieces of you everywhere. In your family, in your children, in our children, in your friends, in photographs, in stories that will be told around tables for years to come, in places we've been together, in stories, in laughter that suddenly reminds us of yours. At the beach, at the lighthouse, and certainly in me. So this isn't really goodbye. It's thank you. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being part of our family's story. Thank you for allowing us to be part of yours. Thank you for all those ordinary days that I now understand were anything but ordinary. And thank you for the extraordinary gift of you. And now, my beautiful friend, you don't have to be courageous anymore. You don't have to keep fighting. You don't have to be the strong one. You've fought for so long, you've given so much, and you have loved so many people. You can rest now. And if that kookaburra meant what my heart hopes it meant, maybe Mum was letting me know she's there. Maybe she's saying, come on, love, I've got you from here. And there is something about imagining that which brings me enormous comfort. We'll look after things down here. We'll tell the stories. We'll laugh about the ridiculous things. We'll love your family. And we'll remember. And every now and again, I'll take a coffee to the lighthouse and sit with you for a while. Thank you.
for the extraordinary privilege of being your friend. I love you and I always will. And wherever you're listening to this today, my beautiful listeners, if someone came into your mind while you were listening, please don't wait for the perfect moment. Call them, sit with them, have the damn coffee, tell them. And perhaps today, notice one completely ordinary thing about your life that you would give anything to experience one more time if you knew it was about to disappear. Because today, we get another ordinary day. And that is no small thing. This episode is for you, Narelle. With all my love. Bye for now.
Thank you for spending this time with me on Growing Tall Poppies. My hope is that today's episode has offered you something more than insight, that it's helped you feel a little more connected to who you are now, a little more trusting of your body, and a little more permission to stand tall without shrinking or forcing yourself forward. Post-traumatic growth isn't about fixing yourself or returning to who you once were. It's about understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently choosing what no longer needs to come with you. New episodes of Growing Tall Poppies are released weekly, every Tuesday, and I'd love for you to continue walking this path with us as we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it truly means to grow forward, grounded, aligned, and embodied. If this episode resonated, I invite you to subscribe, follow, share it with someone that you feel might need it, or simply take a quiet moment to reflect on what's ready to move forward for you. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Nat Green, on Facebook at Dr. Natalie Green, or over on YouTube at Dr. Nat Green. And remember, you don't need to rush, and you don't need to hide anymore. Stay connected, stay true, and keep standing tall like the tall poppy you are. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.